What's up everyone? In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys the best build for the new Shrapnel LMG. So first of all, let's discuss what Shrapnel is. Upon hitting an enemy with a bullet, deal 50% attack as weapon damage to a different random part. What this means is, if you hit an enemy, for example in the chest part, it will not shrapnel in the chest area. It will shrapnel either on the head, arms, or any other limbs, right? With this weapon, we have shrapnel procs every 12 hits. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I guess I miscounted one, but as you can see, we can hit every other body part. Now, this shrapnel effect can crit and can hit weak spots, which makes it really strong. And here's a quick DPS check for all of you guys. All you need to do is switch to your wildfire, mark the target, then switch back to your main weapon, and then shoot until your mag is empty. So we're going to be using conflicting memories for this build. This LMG just came out and I was able to experiment with it with the mods and what works best for this build. And what I have found out is it is very strong and it does a lot of damage. Since it has a lot of mag capacity, it allows us to dish out consistent amount of damage as well. What I went with this build is I went more crit oriented so that we will be doing a lot more damage. I didn't find any use in going just weak spot or any other build type. For that reason, we're going to be rocking our 4-piece Lone Wolf set. Now I use Lone Wolf mask, gloves, chest, and then legs. Now in terms of key armor, we're going with cage helmet. We're not going to go with Beret because Beret is simply not doing enough with only shrapnel hit part going up 1. Now what this means is when you hit a target, the parts that it hits increases by 1. On the other hand, if you're running cage helmet, the shrapnel trigger count goes +1. As you can see, when we proc the shrapnel, there are a bunch of numbers that come out next to the shrapnel hit part, and that is the extra triggers that you're seeing. So cage helmet basically performs better. And on my last piece, I went with Bastille boots because it gives us +10 weapon damage. And for your hide choices on your armor pieces, I would go with wool, some type of wool on your helmet because it allows us to get non-weak spot damage reduction. Honestly, I don't even know if enemies hit weak spots, but I assume they do not have hits for your weak spots, so wools are the best choice for your helmet. For your chest piece, the best option would be going either cold resist or heat resist. The other ones don't do too much. If you're fighting in higher level areas, heat resist will be your best friend. If you're fighting in colder areas, bear skin will be your best friend. And same goes with your pants as well. Only go with some sort of resistance. And for your gloves, you have a couple of options, but what I found best is that going with crocodile hide because it gives us a little bit more yield when we do our final strike. And for your boots, you can go with some sort of movement speed. What I like going with is some sort of deer hide because it gives me more sprint. If you can get your hands on a forest deer hide, it's really strong on sprint speed, but it's going to cost more stamina. Now, as for your mask, I would either go with seal skin to get that 8% weapon damage while dampened. You can just go into water and it will give you a dampened status. Usually they last quite a bit. Or you can just simply go with golden wool, which will give you mixed weapon damage and status damage. You won't get much, but every little bit counts. Going back to the weapons, what we want to run our secondary as is wildfire. I'm not running either crossbow or bingo here is because I don't like how crossbow you need to reload very consistently and it takes a long time to actually get someone to get marked. On the other hand, wildfire you can just pull out and keep shooting and keep marking enemies around. On top of it, if you mark an enemy that is alone, you will get 25% weapon damage with wildfire. And the reason we're not using bingo is that we're not going to be hitting any weak spots. So extra weak spot damage, we're not going to be using. As far as mods go, let's start with the weapon mod. I'm going Shatter Them All for my weapon. The reason we're going Shatter Them All and not going Shrapnel Smash is that Shrapnel Smash underperforms when put into contrast with Shatter Them All because it just gives more raw damage. And for your secondary, what you want to run is always Vulnerability Amplifier for that extra vulnerability damage. And for accessories, I'm going with Large Break, Compact Reflex Sight, Tactical Laser Sight, Large Drum Mag. The reason for this is I actually value accuracy over stability or range because I want my shots to go where I'm actually shooting them. And for your weapon calibration, go with Rapid Shot Style and Double Crit Rate. This will allow you to do a lot of damage very quickly, and you will be able to crit a lot with this. And for your wildfire, there's no need for any other calibration. Any calibration really works. You can either go portable for movement speed, or you can go rapid for more damage with your wildfire. For our mods, on our helmet, I'm going with Faithful Strike. The reason I'm not going for momentum up is because we're a crit based build. And if we're not hitting crits, we're going to be doing a lot less damage. So we want to focus on that crit rate and crit damage. And loss of weak spots is not that big of a deal. For our mask, we're going to go with Targeted Strike for the similar reason. We need that crit rate, we need that crit damage. For our chest piece, I'm going with Crit Enhancement, but you can always sub this in with something with better attributes, but they need to be really good to be able to match a blue crit enhancement. For our pants, we're going to be going with Deadshot for the simple reason being the crit damage. The more crit damage we have, the more damage we will do. For our gloves, we're going to be going with Crit Amplifier. The reason I'm going with Crit Amplifier and not the Crit Boost one, the reason for that is I really don't think trading 5% crit rate for 15% crit damage is not worth it. So for our boots, we're going to be either going with Covered Advance or you can go with Slow and Steady. The reason I'm going with Covered Advance is because I do not have any Slow and Steady that is as good as my Covered Advance. And for your attributes, what you want to focus on is crit damage, some weapon damage, and you can also go with some magazine capacity because it scales well with our weapon. And for our Cradle, we're going to be going a very simple setup. We're going anti-regen because it gives more damage to our light machine guns and it allows us to hit those anomalies better. And we're going tactical combo for that extra 25% weapon damage. Also, we're going to go with Deviation Master, which allows us to do a lot more damage to great ones. I also went with Sky Operation. The main reason being while jumping, we get 10% damage reduction. And this was more of a fill spot, so you can replace this with anything else. And we're going with Deadly Combo because it gives us a lot of shrapnel damage after triggering a shrapnel. I also opted in for Steady Hand even though I'm not necessarily using it, but if you find a chance to trigger the Fortress Warfare somehow, this will be a great option. And we're going to be going with Tracking Bullet. Dealing weak spot damage grants us 2.5 shrapnel damage and plus 3.5 shrapnel crit damage for 6 seconds up to 10 stacks. And now you might be thinking, Snow, we're running Faithful Strike. How is this gonna work? We're not hitting weak spots. To clarify this, Faithful Strike states cannot deal weak spot damage. It does not say you cannot hit weak spots. As you can see, if I hit on my dummy, I still deal weak spots. And to prove this further, I will be shooting a little bit more. And as you can see, in our buff slots, we have Tracking Bullet buff. So Tracking Bullet actually works with us. And for the last one, we're going to be going with Bounty Hunter. Now this works with us because we're going to be marking our enemies. Even though you switch to your LMG, it will still keep counting the enemies as marked enemies, giving you extra weapon damage. Going on to buff food and what we can use to make our damage even better. So you can always go with pan-fried fish, but you need to use sea bass. Now, currently, I don't know if there are any places that you can fish for sea bass, but this gives us fire rate, giving us a lot more damage. And you can also go with angelfish, which gives us crit damage. Other than that, what you're going to be using for the most part is going to be your canned meat. Now, this allows us to get 20% more shrapnel damage. And if you make this with your Chefsaurus or your kitchen set gourmand, this effect will increase, allowing you to do even more damage. So make sure to have that set up properly. And as far as your priorities goes, you don't have to level up your armors to max. it will only give you HP, but your weapons need to be fully calibrated. So make sure that your weapons are fully calibrated for that. For our Deviant, I'm going with my K9 Skull. The reason for this is it allows us to get 43% weapon damage on targets that are marked by our K9 Skull. This allows us to do even more damage. Now, if you do not have K9, another option that works well I found is Snapshot. Now, I do not have a level 5 Snapshot, but Snapshot allows us to mark the enemies in certain spots, and our shrapnels actually trigger this effect, giving us a lot more damage. One important thing about Snapshot is that you want to use it on manual photograph setting. If you put it on manual photograph, it will mount you. And when you aim, as you can see, the bar at the bottom fills up and it takes a snapshot. In normal enemies, this will mark enemies, and your shrapnel procs will hit those spots, deal a lot of damage. One downside to Snapshot is that, as you can see, it's already out. It takes very long time for it to recharge, and it depletes extremely quickly. So overall, Lone Wolf just does better than Snapshot. Well, that's going to be it from me, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought about this video and what you want to see next. And if you like the content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more Once Human content. Thank you for watching, guys. I'll see you on the next one.